I arrived at the hotel just before midnight, exhausted from the long drive. It wasn't a five-star place, but it had a strange charm, the kind that made you feel like it had stories to tell. The lobby smelled of old wood and something faintly floral, like roses left to dry for too long. The receptionist, a thin man with hollow cheeks, barely looked up when I gave him my name. "Room 306, he said, handing me the key. His voice was flat, devoid of any warmth. But just as I turned to leave, he hesitated. "Actually, if you don't mind, I'll put you in 308 instead." I paused, confused. "Is something wrong with 306? His lips parted slightly, as if searching for the right words. Then, with an almost forced smile, he shook his head. "No, just a preference. 308 is better. The view is nicer." Something about the way he said it made me uneasy. But I was too tired to argue, so I took the key and made my way upstairs. The hallway was long and narrow, the kind that felt like it stretched endlessly when you walked alone at night. The walls were lined with old paintings, portraits of strangers who all seemed to be watching. When I reached my room, I noticed the door to 306 directly across from mine. It looked just like the others, but something felt off. The air around it was colder, and the brass numbers on the door seemed darker, almost tarnished. As I slid my key into 308, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. My eyes darted back to 306. For a brief moment, I thought I saw the door handle twitch. Not a full turn, just the slightest movement, as if someone inside had touched it and then hesitated. I hurried inside my room and locked the door. I tried to shake it off as paranoia, but that feeling of unease only grew stronger as the night went on. When I finally settled into bed, I could hear faint sounds from the other side of the wall. At first, I thought it was just the usual noises of an old building, pipes creaking, the wind rattling against the windows. But then I realized the sounds were rhythmic. Tap, 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 like fingers drumming against wood. I sat up holding my breath. Then a whisper. It was too soft to make out the words, but it came from 306. My skin prickled as I strained to listen. I reached for my phone, debating whether to call the front desk, but as soon as I grabbed it, the noises stopped. Silence swallowed the room. I let out a shaky breath, forcing myself to relax. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe someone had snuck in there, despite what the receptionist had implied. I turned over, pulling the covers tighter. Just as I was drifting off, I heard it again, the faint click of a door unlocking. And this time, it wasn't from inside my room. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. The sound was unmistakable, the soft, deliberate click of a lock disengaging. My heart pounded as I slowly turned my head toward the door, the silence stretched, thick and suffocating. Had I imagined it? For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, just as I started convincing myself that I was being paranoid, a shadow moved beneath the gap of my door. Someone, or something, was standing outside. I stayed perfectly still, barely daring to breathe. My mind raced with possibilities. A late-night guest? A hotel staff member? But why would anyone be standing outside my room in the middle of the night without knocking? Then I heard it. A slow, dragging sound, like fingertips gliding down my door. It started at the top and trailed all the way down to the floor. My skin crawled as the sound sent a cold shiver through me. I reached for my phone on the nightstand, my fingers trembling. The screen lit up, casting a faint glow around the room. It was 3:06 a.m. 3:06. The realization hit me like ice water. I glanced toward the door again. The shadow was gone. Summoning my courage, I slid out of bed as quietly as possible and crept toward the peephole. My pulse thudded in my ears as I pressed my eye against the tiny glass lens. The hallway was empty. I let out a shaky breath. Maybe I really had imagined it. Maybe exhaustion was playing tricks on me. But just as I was about to step back, I saw something that made my blood run cold. The door to room 306 was slightly open, not enough to see inside, but just a crack, as if someone had pushed it ajar and was waiting, watching. I stumbled back, my heartbeat slamming against my ribs. This wasn't normal. Someone was in that room. Someone who wasn't supposed to be there. I considered calling the front desk, but I knew what they'd say. They'd dismiss it, tell me it was nothing. I needed proof. My curiosity warred with my fear, but in the end, curiosity won. Slowly, cautiously, I unlocked my door and eased it open just enough to peek into the hallway. The dim glow from the wall sconces cast long, eerie shadows. I took a hesitant step out, my bare feet soundless on the worn carpet. My eyes remained fixed on 306. The door was still ajar. I inched forward, every instinct screaming at me to turn around and go back. But I had to know. Just as I reached out to push the door open a little wider, a noise erupted from inside. A harsh, gasping breath. Not mine. I stumbled back, my pulse roaring in my ears. The sound came again, ragged, strained, like someone struggling to breathe. Then a whisper. It came from just beyond the doorway, so close, I could feel the weight of it in the air. Don't let it in. A chill ripped through me as I turned and bolted for my room, slamming the door shut behind me. My hand shook as I locked it, my mind racing with terror. Don't let what in? As I pressed my back against the door, my heart hammering, I realized something else. My room was freezing, and the closet door was open. The air inside my room had turned ice cold, the kind of cold that didn't feel natural. My breath came out in thin, misty puffs, even though there was no air conditioning running. The closet door, which I was sure had been shut before, now stood slightly open. A sliver of darkness stretched into the room, deep and unnatural. I wanted to move, to run, to do anything but stand there, frozen in place. But something held me, something unseen, something watching. The whisper from 306 still echoed in my head. Don't let it in. I forced myself to move, inching toward the closet. My fingers trembled as I reached out to push the door shut. The wood felt ice-cold beneath my palm. Just as the door clicked into place, a sound came from inside. A breath. Shallow, rattling, and impossibly close. I stumbled back, my heartbeat thundering in my ears. My instinct screamed at me to get out, to leave the hotel and never look back. But before I could even make it to the door, something even worse happened. The lights flickered, not the quick, harmless kind of flicker you see in old buildings, but a slow, deliberate dimming. Like the darkness itself was pushing against the glow. Shadows stretched unnaturally along the walls, twisting into long, jagged shapes that didn't belong to me. Then the knocking started. Soft at first, like fingertips against the wood. Then harder, then pounding. It wasn't coming from the hallway. It was coming from inside the closet. I backed away, my body pressed against the door to my room, my breath shallow. The knocking stopped. Silence thickened the air, pressing against my skull, making it hard to think. And then the door handle turned, slowly, deliberately. The closet door creaked open again, revealing nothing but a pitch-black void. No hangers, no shelves, no back wall, just darkness. A whisper seeped out from within. "You shouldn't be here." My body locked up in terror. It wasn't my imagination. Something was inside the closet. Something that had been waiting. The air shifted. The darkness inside the closet swirled like a living thing. And then, before I could react, something stepped out. Not a person, not a shadow. A figure, impossibly tall and thin, its limbs elongated, its face obscured by the shifting dark. It had no eyes, no mouth, just a hollow gaping void where a face should have been. And yet, I could feel it staring at me. I tried to move, but my body refused to obey. The thing raised one long spindly hand and pointed at me. The room tilted. My vision blurred, my knees buckled, I felt myself being pulled. Toward the closet, toward that endless void. My mind screamed, but no sound came out. And then, the whisper from 306. "Don't let it in." Something yanked me back, the pull of the void snapped, and I crashed onto the floor. Gasping, I scrambled away, just as the closet door slammed shut on its own. The air in the room snapped back to normal, the temperature rising instantly. My body trembled violently as I reached for my phone. I had to get out of here. I had to leave. My fingers fumbled over the screen as I tried to call the front desk. No signal. I forced myself up, legs shaking, and ran to the door. The lock clicked open easily, and I practically threw myself into the hallway. It was empty, silent, as if nothing had happened. But then I noticed something. The door to room 306 was wide open, and inside, standing motionless in the darkness, was a figure. Not the creature from my closet. This was something else, a person. A man in an old-fashioned suit, his face eerily pale, his eyes hollow. He raised a hand, just like the thing in my room had, and in a voice that sounded distant, echoing from somewhere far away. He whispered, "It's still in there. And now, it knows your name." My breath hitched in my throat. The man in room 306 didn't move. He just stood there in the shadows, his hollow eyes locked onto mine. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but my body refused to obey. I could feel the weight of something unseen pressing against me. Something unnatural, something waiting. Then, without warning, the lights in the hallway flickered. Not like before. This time, they died completely. Darkness swallowed everything. The air grew thick, heavy, suffocating. I could hear it, the low, rasping breaths of something else in the darkness. It wasn't the man in 306. It was something behind me. I turned, slow and stiff, like my body wasn't my own. The hallway had changed. The walls were peeling, the carpet damp and rotting beneath my feet. The doors, each one was slightly open, revealing nothing but black voids beyond them. A sickening realization crawled up my spine. I wasn't in the hotel anymore, at least not the one I had checked into. A sound cut through the silence. Tap, tap and tap footsteps, not hurried, not frantic, just slow, deliberate steps, echoing through the endless corridor. I wasn't alone. My fingers dug into my palms, nails biting into my skin. I forced myself to move, to turn back toward room 306, but the door was no longer open. It was gone. Where it had been, there was now just a solid wall, as if the room had never existed. A whisper slithered through the air, impossibly close to my ear. "You stayed too long." A sharp pain stabbed through my skull, my vision blurred, the world around me twisting like melting wax. I stumbled forward, trying to find something, anything, to hold on to. My hands met only cold, damp walls. Then I saw it. A single door at the end of the hallway. It was the only one that remained fully closed. Something deep inside me knew that was my way out. I ran. The air thickened, turning solid, pressing against me like unseen hands trying to hold me back. The footsteps behind me quickened, no longer slow, no longer patient. It was coming. The door at the end of the hall seemed impossibly far. My lungs burned, my legs screamed, but I pushed forward. The whispers around me grew louder, overlapping, suffocating. Voices of others who had been here before me. It won't let you leave. We were just like you. Don't look back. I reached the door. My fingers fumbled with the handle. It wouldn't turn. The footsteps stopped. I knew what that meant. It was right behind me. Every muscle in my body screamed at me to keep facing forward, to not turn around. But something forced me to look. And I saw it. A figure, tall and wrong, shifting and flickering like a broken image, as if it existed in a place my mind couldn't comprehend. Its face, if it even had one, was a swirling void, twisting and changing. And then it spoke. You were never meant to leave. The door behind me exploded open. A force yanked me backward, through the doorway, through the suffocating dark. And then I woke up, gasping. Cold sweat drenched my body. My heart slammed against my ribs as I bolted upright in bed. I was in my hotel room. The lights were on. The closet door was shut. The air was warm again. For a long moment, I just sat there, panting, my hands trembling. Had it been a nightmare? A hallucination? Then I noticed something. The time on my phone, 3 a.m. The exact moment everything had started, and worse, the door to my room was slightly open, from the inside. And on the floor, just beyond the doorway, were wet, rotting footprints, leading out.